Shirin Behzadi is an Iranian regime change survivor. She is a cancer survivor. She started when she moved to the United States at a very young age, started as a gas station attendant and ascended all the way to the CEO of a $1 billion company. Her newest book is The Unexpected CEO. Welcome back to the show, Shireen.
Thanks for having me. It was so much fun last time.
Yeah, excited to dig back into everything with you. Refresh our memories. Tell us a little bit about your personal lives, more about your work, and what motivated you to write the book.
Yes, I was born and raised in Iran, and as you mentioned, I ended up leaving. I escaped to Turkey when I was 17 years old by myself with no parents. I left everything I knew behind. And there I had to find hope because I had never been away from my family. I didn't speak the language. I didn't know how I would navigate life. It was really understanding that maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel that helped me get through those dark days. I eventually ended up in the United States because that was what I believed I was going to do, and it eventually happened. And when I got here, I was super excited, but also I knew that I had to survive. So I did the one thing I thought I could do, which was to work at a gas station as a cashier. It was a bulletproof booth and not the best neighborhoods. And there were days in there where I was in a dark place and wondered if I could find my way through. And it was really reaching in and asking myself, is it really that my circumstance that dire, or is it that I need to change my point of view? So that change in perspective was maybe what I'll do is to focus on building a new life. And I was convinced, absolutely believed that I was going to run a big company someday. That's what mobilized me. From that point on, every decision I made, work that I did, lessons that I learned along the way were all towards that North Star of someday running a big company. Fast forward decades later, I did help grow and build and ran a company, a $1 billion company. And here I am. Today, I'm all about impact and sharing those lessons with others so that they can also build, grow, accomplish, and live their vision.
It's fascinating. You're this young person, and you get it in your mind. I'm going to run a big company someday. Where do you think that that came from? It could have been anything.
Right? I think, well, I do have a memory of sitting at the cashier's booth on a Christmas morning. I was the one person picked to work that day because, I was the youngest. I really didn't have anyone. It made sense to them. And it felt like I was alone, that I had nowhere to go, is how it felt. And I felt sorry for myself. And as I was sitting there alone, nobody was coming to the gas station. Little by little, gradually, that glimmer of hope showed up. And that was through that I thought, well, is it possible for me to do build a new life? It kind of grew from there. The more I gave it life, the more I really felt into I can build a new life, the more it became why not? The more it pulled me to the idea. And one day I finally uttered it. I just said the words. I'm like, I'm going to run a big company. And that became a thing. In fact, one thing you and I didn't talk about last time, which I was talking to a friend of mine and she was loving it. She kept repeating it, is even when I was working at the gas station, after I really felt like and I said uttered the words, I'm going to run a big company, I printed myself business cards. Which is kind of funny because I was making very little money and it wasn't like I actually needed the business card, but I printed them. I think it was something tangible that made me feel like it's happening.
I love everything about that. Not that you're sitting on Christmas feeling sad, but the rest of it. That's incredible. You actually printed business cards, and that was
I did.
that wasn't like you could go online and just do that easily.
Oh no, yeah. Oh no. And it costs money, right? When you don't have a lot of money, that's definitely an investment. But I'm not sure why, other than it was as if I'm presenting myself to the world as.
Hmm.
Don't see me only as nothing wrong with being a cashier at a gas station, but to me, it was only a stop. it wasn't my destination.
I can remember the first time I got business cards. Our lives are very, very, very different. I did not escape regime change. I have not survived cancer and I've not run a billion-dollar company, but I can put myself back in the shoes of really feeling proud and getting really excited about having a business card because maybe it just felt like I had a different kind of status and I saw
Right.
myself, other people would see me in a different way.
You're right. I think that's the essence of, you asked me earlier why I wrote the book. We all have so much in common. One thing I've learned over the years is, as I've talked about my story, not by my choice, things have come up. And, when, like we talked about, Forbes came and interviewed me and printed or did a videotape of my life back in 2019, sort of the cat was out of the bag. So people were asking more about stories. And what I learned is that we all have so much that we share in our human experience. So maybe you didn't escape a regime, but maybe how you and I connect is over the business card, or maybe how I connect with someone else is the fact that we both went through a health ordeal, which in my case was a brain tumor. But or maybe we connect over the idea that we went through entrepreneurial journeys and there were challenges along the way, or we dealt with the Great Recession, or didn't know what to do in the next phase of life. The point of it is, what I learned as I was writing the book myself, the idea was, what are those points? What are those principles that I learned? I only discovered them. I didn't create them. What are those principles that I learned along the way, and how do I best share them? The best way to share them is through my personal stories. And I have found that there's just so much in common when I share them to others, which is the whole idea. That's, I believe, how you can impact.
Do you think that, I mean, each one of us is so unique. I am a gift from God, as are you, and every human being has this unique
Right.
soul, and we're unlike anybody else. But to your point, we all have really common wants and common interests and common impulses and desires. So we are not
Yes.
that much different than one another. You, to your point, just have made these decisions, and you said, "I'm interested in running a big company. I want people to think of me. I want to think of myself in that same way."
Mhm.
And as I look around, I see young people who feel or appear to feel disenfranchised, sort of left behind, that they don't have a major struggle to push against. There's not a big war. Well, not necessarily anyway.
Yeah,
There.
I hear you. I hear you.
So what is your message to them?
I feel like oftentimes, and I've been asked this question because I always say adversity is your superpower, and people have asked, well, but if I haven't had adversity, I think adversity is a challenge to you depending on where you are in life. So I definitely don't want people to have adversity like we did, which is to face wars, right? I don't want people to hear sirens and bombings. That's definitely not desired. But from your normal life, challenges do come up, hurdles do come up, obstacles do come up. And those to you, I don't mean you personally, but you as a human being, are maybe not quite adversities, but there are challenges. And sorry, he's barking. You're gonna edit it out. Should I get rid of him?
It's
I
okay.
don't know why he never barks. Stop. Uh-uh. Um, so sorry.
It's
Going
okay.
back. So the challenges that people face are challenges that they face. Here's the idea. Oftentimes we look at challenge, change, hurdle, disappointment, or adversity as negative. My point is, there are all teachers. So the more you go through and learn from, when something shows up, ask yourself the question. Of course, take a minute and say, this is not good, but then say, how can I get through it? Why? How can I learn from it? How do I become better as a result of it? You do. And guess what that does? It builds the muscles that you need, that resilient muscle that you need for the next bigger one and a bigger one. So my point is, I do believe that young people today do have a lot of obstacles and challenges. They may just look different. And I encourage them to embrace them, to not avoid them. If something looks challenging, perhaps that's exactly what the direction it is that they need to go into to learn from and through.
Got to lean into all of those. So I appreciate that.
Mhm.
You were able to find that North Star, that thing that was pulling you towards it, that you were pushing to get to of, I want to run a big company, which is probably looking back really, really, really important because it helped to carry you through all the crappy stuff that you had to go through on a daily basis. And yeah, to your
Right.
point, young people certainly deal with so many different challenges and modern living is not easy. Do you think that they need to find some kind of North Star that kind of pulls them towards it?
I do, yes, I do want to add that my North Star wasn't just a North Star by itself. I also had really strong values, one of them being that, I knew when I was going to be a mother that I wanted to be an engaged mother. So the two combined guided me because I had a value system in addition to a goal, a North Star. So what does that mean? It means that I had a sense of what I wanted my life to look like and feel like. So I do encourage people to have a vision that isn't so necessarily specific because trust me, throughout my journey from gas station to CEO, I can't tell you that I knew all the time along the way, this is the direction. And there's a lot of zigzag and there's a lot of setbacks and there are lots of days that I just didn't even know if I was able to. So we're looking in hindsight and seeing it works. But the idea is if you have your eyesight on something, even when you veer off course, you can find your way back. That's the point. I do encourage young people, I've said that to my son and daughter both, to really visualize where you want to be in life. What does that look like? What does it look like for you? Because to your point, we're all different. We all have our own gifts. We all have our own desires. What does that look like? And then and really pursue that. You can't sit back and say, I am going to be at least I don't think you can, a CEO of an XYZ company that's exactly what I'm going to be. That I don't think is as practical or useful. But in general terms, where you want to be in life is what's important to have in mind.
Which makes so much sense when you say that. Um,
Mhm.
Yet so few of us, I think, hmm. When you hear that only 3% of Americans have written down their goals, that suggests to me that people don't necessarily have a real clear idea of what they want their life to look like. And I don't know that
Yeah.
they have that value system. I think we all have value system. We all have ideas of what we want, but to print a business card, to say it out loud, do you think that that changes things?
Yes. One thing I encourage people to do, and I've said that in my when I speak or advise, is take a moment, more than a moment, take some time and write down your strengths. I feel like the world kind of tells you where your weaknesses are, and generally speaking, the voices that we have in our head are mostly defensive. So they're mostly about what you cannot do, which is fine because that's how it works. I highly recommend people sit down and write down what they're good at. I don't want to hear negative. I don't want to hear weaknesses. I only want to see and hear strengths. Because once you start making that list, that inventory of strengths, you're going to surprise yourself. And I would be very generous with what strength looks like. Maybe strength is not something you think necessarily applies to business or success, but it is a strength. So maybe you can draw very good stick figures. I don't know. Write it down if it is. What it's going to do is that it, like anything else, it's practice. The more you do it, the more you are going to see a picture emerge of you about you. And that is what's going to help you focus yourself. Maybe part of the reason people don't necessarily write their goals or think about their core values. Is just they just haven't taken the time, because if they do have those values. It just hasn't shown up yet because they haven't taken the time. Now, in my case, I think it ended up becoming that practice. And again, in hindsight, this is why I wrote the book. I reflected and I said, oh, I did it that way because I was surviving. And when you survive, you have, there are a different set of circumstances at play, right? You don't have much of a choice but to focus on your strengths and where you think you can build and so on. But you can do that same exercise without having to necessarily survive.
It's so interesting that when we do find ourselves with our backs against the wall, that's where we sort of have to take action,
Yes.
and we're forced by our situation.
Yes.
But I think that there's value in trying to sort of manufacture that. What do you think about that?
Yes, I think this is why I'm saying adversity is a superpower. Like, do look for one of my mottos. And somebody reminded me only after I had stepped down as CEO, hey, Shireen, is that your motto? Because you always say it. I always used to say, doing well by doing good. And people may interpret that doing good by doing charitable work, which is great. I love charitable work. I'm a philanthropist. But I mean, not just that. I also mean doing good work, doing good by others. Why does that matter? Is the eagerness to doing good work, whatever work it is that you do, naturally puts you in a position to find challenges because doing good work is challenging, right? So talk about manufacturing it, but you're not artificially manufacturing it. You're just saying these things that are before me. Let me use an example. When I started working at EY early on, as I had graduated college, I was so lucky and I thought very fortunate to be working for a big accounting firm. And I have a story of how I ended up there. But pretty immediately I said, okay, give me the biggest clients, the most difficult clients, the things that would teach me the most, because I was eager to learn. I was eager to doing good work. That naturally, in a positive way, creates challenges along the way that helps you grow. So whatever you're doing, step it up. Try to do it really well.
Why not, right? When you hear people that are quiet quitting or whatever that whole nonsense is, you're just doing yourself such a disservice. Whatever you're doing, do it well. Focus on it. Commit to it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if if your passion is, like I said before, drawing stick figures, do it really, really well. Like nobody else can draw stick figures as well as you do because you're putting your everything into it. That's what it's about.
Feeling good about what it is you're doing at the end of the day, you can look back and say, "Hey, you know what? This I might still be stuck in this stupid gas station, but I busted my butt and I did everything that I could and I went above and beyond and somebody's life was a little bit better because I tried harder."
Yes. Yes. And I promise you, doing doing well comes as a result. You do better because you did good. You did good work. You applied yourself. You did good by others. The well is your reward.
It sounds like it's a function of holding yourself to like have a standard that you live by, that you hold
Mhm.
yourself to, and that's an example of how you do one thing is how you do everything, because it's probably going to have a really virtuous effect on every aspect of life, not just your work.
Right. And here's the thing. If you do the exercise I mentioned, which is to write down your strengths, now all of a sudden you see a picture of yourself that says, I have these great qualities. These are the things that I'm good at, and I'm applying myself wholeheartedly. That is what's going to help you build your eventual place you want to be in life. Those are the building blocks. Those are the foundations of building, growing, accomplishing, living your vision.
It's so to your point, we're focused just on the stuff that we think that we're not good at or we're bad at or I'm just deficient. I'm not very good at that. But the opposite, making that shift is like I'm the best stick figure drawer in the world. I've a great
Mhm.
work ethic. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty, whatever it is. And those
Yes.
are the building blocks and the scaffolding, the foundation.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. I love it. Well, Shireen, thank you so much for coming back on. Where can people
Thank
learn
you.
more about you? How can they engage? Where can they get their copy of The Unexpected CEO?
So the unexpected CEO is everywhere. If they just search the unexpected CEO, it'll pop up. Obviously, it's on my website, which is my name, shirinbehzadi.com. The spelling is interesting, so I'm sure you have show notes. And I am active on all kinds of social channels. I do post and talk about all of these things to try to help impact others' lives so that they can as well build the life that they want.
Excellent. Well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Shireen your appreciation. Share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to ShirinBehzadi.com. It's ShirinBehzadi.com and pick up your copy of The Unexpected CEO wherever you buy your books. Find her on social media and all the places on the internet. Thanks again, Shireen.
Yes, thank you.
And until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.